Now the last piece, so Sandy goes on to investigate. He's got all of his, throughout the book, all the rest of the characters that have been introduced. And it's come to a point where he has called a whole bunch of people, a lot of the accomplices together. So this is the last little bit. It is late morning. Sandy was sitting beside Russell's desk, tapping his pencil. He had been writing notes in his notebook, stopping on occasion, tapping his pencil as he contemplated his next words. Now it was more tapping and less writing. Russell was sitting in the corner at a small table, fully engrossed in an intense game of chess with Doc-eyed. Edwin was pacing in anticipation of the announcement Sandy had promised earlier in the day. Sandy, after convincing the doctor to delay his return, asked the others to wait until Graham arrived for their prearranged meeting before he shared his findings. Sandy said he wanted Graham in attendance so he could capture the solution to the case. Edwin had earlier whispered in Russell's ear, "I suspect it's an opportunity for Graham to capture Sandy's brilliance in solving the murders." Outside, they could hear footsteps, amplified by the wooden floorboards. Soon, the unforgettable, nasally utterance filled the room. "Good morning, gents." Sandy was thinking that perhaps for the first time since meeting Graham, he didn't find his voice irritating. "Good morning, Graham." Everyone was caught by surprise. Sandy's greeting seemed genuinely civil. Sandy's dislike for Graham had grown. He found his journalistic methods deplorable. The result was his attitude of disdain towards him became obvious. Even Graham gave him a second look. "I hope you have something good for me today." "I think you will find this session to be particularly captivating," Sandy replied. He stood up and said, "Why don't you take my seat?" Graham was visibly taken aback by Sandy's graciousness. With trepidation, he slowly sat in the chair Sandy had just vacated. Sandy stood beside the investigation board as the others rolled up their chairs so that they were sitting in a semicircle around the chalkboard. He lifted the blanket that was concealing the writing that they had assembled on the previous weeks. Graham set his satchel on the desk in front of him and reached inside to remove a pad of paper to write his notes. Sandy stood by the board with a piece of chalk in his hand he used as a pointer and began. "This is a very ingenious plot. I was summoned here initially to solve the grievous murders of 2 scouts. Their bodies were found decapitated in the woods along Calhoun's Creek. Their severed heads have not been recovered yet. The autopsy revealed the instrument that separated their heads from the rest of their bodies was likely a large, sharp instrument, such as a sword or a machete." Sandy noticed Edwin appeared to have a twinge of recollection when he mentioned machete. Thankfully, he kept quiet, as Sandy was on a roll. "Then we came across the remains of Angus Calhoun. He was badly decomposed. Based on normal decomposition, his death would have been 2 years earlier. This made him the original murderer. Of course, he was also decapitated, and his head has also not been similarly located. The distinction between these cases is that the scouts had their heads removed swiftly, an instantaneous death. Calhoun, on the other hand, had been murdered slowly. His head was removed, but not quickly. The murderer obviously was motivated to inflict pain on poor old Angus." Graham chuckled. "I don't think many people would refer to Angus Calhoun as poor old. He was a detestable human being." Sandy smirked. "You may be right, but you must agree it was a particularly painful way to go." "Yeah, the old bugger suffered," Graham agreed. Sandy continued, "Killing an old guy is one thing. The difficult part is killing two strong young lads. The murderer did not wrestle them to the ground and remove their heads in one quick swipe. Even if he would have been able to surprise the first one, the second one would have certainly fought back. Furthermore, the autopsy showed no evidence that either put up a fight. And so enters Devil's Breath. And the name of the book.